Hello. I'm sure everyone watching this has used most or all of these phrases before, but you aren't sure why. So let's get into it and break the ice. Sailing through the Arctic is pretty tough if you're frozen in place. We have these ships that break ice called icebreakers amazingly, and clear a path for everyone to move through nice and easy. We say it today when we're talking about creating an opening to start a conversation. Careful though, you might start something you weren't ready for, in which case you'll just have to bite the bullet. While some people say this metaphor goes back to the Civil War, describing surgical procedures in which wounded soldiers were made to bite down on a bullet because they didn't have anesthetic. They actually did have painkillers back then. We're all familiar with these, right? Either way, they're talking about accepting an inevitable hardship or a point that's hard to refute, something they didn't do a lot of back then. But don't you turn a blind eye to that. And this one's pretty good. They're talking about one Vice Admiral Horatio Nelson, who was blinded in one eye. During the Battle of Copenhagen in 1801, the Admiral Sir Hyde Parker was trying to call off his forces using flag signals to all the ships. Horatio, not wanting to stop the attack, looks through the telescope with his blind eye and says, "Hey, I really don't see the signal though," and continued on. So yeah, he was willfully ignoring what he didn't want to see.
So did he at least win? Spill the beans.
Yeah, they did. Anyway, so spill the beans is referring back to ancient Greece when they would elect new council members with either a white bean for yes or a black bean for no. Each counselor would cast their vote by putting one of the beans into a jar, and at the end, the beans were spilled onto the floor to show the result. It means to give out information or to confess, and in a way, so does let the cat out of the bag. This one has two possible origins, but the first one involved whipping insubordinate British sailors, and I'm not sure how that at all could mean the same thing that I'm talking about here, which is, back in the 1500s, less than reputable farmers would go to the market selling suckling pigs, but once the buyer made his purchase, the farmer would swap out the baby pig for a random cat. This pig in a poke scam was so common, the buyer would just empty the bag once the farmer handed it to them to make sure that that's what he gave him, thus letting the cat out of the bag. Or in other words, revealing a secret prematurely. The farmer would then probably have to butter someone up. In ancient India, people would throw ghee, which is a sort of clarified butter, onto statues of their gods, to bring about good fortune such as a good harvest or just good health. This practice may have begun as far back as 1600 BC, and can still be seen in some parts of the world. And we use this idiom today to mean appeasing someone to get them to give you what you want, like modern day lobbyists or corporations. Me, I keep my appeasement ritual simple, and just pray in my shrine to everyone I'm subscribed to whenever I upload a video. Not to steal someone's thunder, mind you, which is referring back to when John Dennis in 1704 had a play in which he came up with a new method of making a thunder noise. The play itself failed hard, but later on when someone else put on a production of Macbeth, they stole his method, which led him to saying, "Damn them! They will not let my play run, but they will steal my thunder!" We don't know what he did to make that noise. Some suspect he was rolling metal balls around in a bowl, but I personally like to believe he did the old shaking an oven pan around trick. No segue for this last one, I'm on a deadline. So first off, people say that this one also goes back to the Civil War, and they're talking about a boundary around a prison camp, where if a prisoner passed it, he would be shot and killed. But there's a couple problems with that. They aren't referring to a time limit like we are, and that term never showed up in writing ever again after the 19th century, when talking about a line that's not to be crossed, kinda like how we say drawing a line today. When talking about time limits, its earliest use was back in the 1900s, when publishing companies had to get a story out or it would be too late to print, so not much has really changed there. And yeah, that's 8 idioms and their origins. If you're into hand-drawn and formal content, which I suspect you are if you made it this far, consider watching my other videos. I read every comment and check all the analytics non-stop to really fine-tune what I'm doing here. So all feedback, however critical, really does help. Also, I know my mic quality sucks, I don't really know what I'm doing, please help me. Thanks for being with me again today.